Hey everybody, it's me, Evan Grant from the Dallas Morning News and dallasnews.com. Also from the Twitter, Evan_P_Grant, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Hey, how's everybody doing? You've over the Stars and Mavericks hangovers of the playoffs ending. Nice runs by both teams, but it's now, at least until late July, baseball season and baseball season only. And maybe the Rangers are starting to get their act together just in time. As we record this, the club had won four straight before losing to Milwaukee to start off their road trip that went to Milwaukee and Baltimore, leading to the end of June. And things, yeah, hey, they look like they're turning around a little bit. But before we get into that, make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe if you're not already subscribing. I know I don't do it frequently enough for you. It's like you're like my mother. She used to ask, "When are you going to call? When are you going to call?" Well, I'm here. I'm here and I'm providing the content that you have come to crave. I don't know what it says about your cravings. But anyway, so are things turning around? Look, there are some signs that the Rangers are finally getting their stuff together. Their shiz, their riz. Riz isn't the right word. They're getting their stuff together. Um, what do we think? So let's talk about a couple of things. Let's talk first of all about the return of Max Scherzer, who made his first start of the year on Sunday. Um, Took a perfect game into the fifth inning, retired the first 13 batters he faced. Fastball wasn't dominant by any stretch of the imagination, but he commanded it, didn't allow a walk, and he pitched really well with his breaking and off-speed stuff against a Kansas City team that has been one of the biggest surprises in baseball this year. Um, it was, there's no other way to describe it as a very encouraging outing for Max. Now, after the game, typically of Max, he was introspective or analytical, and he said he wasn't sure how that thumb would feel afterwards. He certainly was feeling it after throwing 57 pitches in 5 innings. You know, the way he has described it to me is that he has some nerve pain that starts in his wrist, thumb, and then radiates up through the arm. Um, Rangers have treated it like teams would typically treat a version of neurological thoracic outlet syndrome, where um, a nerve is being impacted by a muscle firing. Uh, Max insists it's not TOS. Um, TOS typically runs from the shoulder down, not from the thumb up. But still, what the Rangers did was they gave him Botox injections, which has become a popular treatment for this. Kind of paralyzes one of the muscles in there, keeps it from firing, uh, and compressing that nerve. If he can pitch like he did on Sunday, that's what the Rangers need. And I'm not talking about one hit baseball for 5 innings. I'm just talking about 5 innings. The Rangers need him to be serviceable Scherzer, not Cy Young Scherzer. They get innings from him. What it has allowed them to do is move Dane Dunning into the bullpen. Dane Dunning and Jose Urena, who pitched 4 innings on Sunday of great baseball to earn the longest save since C.J. Wilson once landed the Rangers team playing. That's a joke for those of you who have been around for a while. Um, Gives them two guys that they can alternate for the sixth and the seventh. Important for extending hot streaks. The sixth and seventh innings have been big issues for the Rangers. As we saw on Monday night in Milwaukee, Jacob Latz had his worst outing, walked three, and then gave up a grand slam. Um, and the Rangers have been outscored by close to 50 runs between those 2 innings combined. So uh, the issue has primarily been there that they have given up the most runs in baseball in the seventh inning. They haven't had reliable seventh inning guys. David Robertson and Kirby Yates have been great at the back end of the bullpen, but they haven't had reliable seventh inning guys. And so if you've got Dunning and Urania to alternate in that seventh inning role with Josh Spores, uh, hopefully close at hand. He's on rehab. I think it's possible he could be uh, activated before the end of this road trip to Baltimore. Um, it gives them a much deeper bullpen. It's also going to give them some questions to answer in the bullpen about who goes. But it makes this team look a lot more workable. And to this extent, right? You get a hot streak like the Rangers were on. If you pitch Robertson or Yates in back-to-back days, you still have a serviceable eighth inning guy or a serviceable ninth inning guy in Josh Spores. There are five pitchers there to get you through the last three innings. And that's a good mix to always have fresh arms, to have some combination of fresh arms. And I will say this and say it again. When Bruce Bochy has reliable arms, there's no better manager in baseball. The guy's a Hall of Fame manager regardless. But what I have seen is when he's got the weapons in the bullpen, he absolutely deploys them deftly. All right, so that handles the starting rotation for the minute and the bullpen. I still think, listen, if the Rangers get hot here and hotter and roll this into July and are really pressing it up against Seattle for the American League West or inching up in the wild card as well, I still think there's a possibility they could add yet another reliever. I'd like to see them add a power arm. Neither Robertson or Yates are really power arms. They're 90 to 94 mile an hour guys. And I think that for the stretch run, you could use a guy who can blow some guys away. No other way to say it. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the lineup. As I've mentioned on numerous occasions, this team has struggled with fastballs. Pointed out last week in an article, four guys who have really struggled, and it's no surprise they're the four guys who are underperforming the most this year: Adolis Garcia, Nathaniel Lowe, Leody Taveras, and Jonah Heim. All have struggled with fastballs this year. Pitchers have used it to exploit them. An encouraging sign on Monday night, Adolis Garcia hit a home run on a 97 mile an hour sinker. Middle of the zone, a sinker that stayed up, didn't get to the top tier of the zone. But listen, Adolis had really struggled on pitches in the heart of the zone. I think the stat last week that I had, which just shocked me, was on fastballs in what MLB.com labels the heart of the zone. He was hitting 147. So last night he turns around 97 miles an hour, yanks it for a home run. Hardest pitch on which he's homered this year. Fourth hardest pitch on which he's ever homered. So maybe he's getting around. What I liked about, well, 3, 2, 1. One thing that's been pointed out in Garcia's struggles has been that, listen, as he gets revved up and wants to do more, he becomes more cognizant of trying to really load that swing. And what I mean is he almost gets to kind of a Gary Sheffield point where as he gets set, all of a sudden the bat cocks like this. He doesn't waggle it like Sheff did and like we all imitated at some point in time in the 90s, but it does kind of tilt down this way. And then when you start your swing, you have to bring it back up. That the Rangers have in some ways theorized that it has led to him being late on some fastballs. So that's something you can look for when you're watching Ranger games. Is the bat go cocked? Does the bat stay up? Stays up? Good sign. All right, what else can we talk about? Oh, am I yelling? I'm very excited. They've won some games, so I'm trying to be enthusiastic for a change instead of wowsy woo woo Evan. Josh Young still hadn't been activated as we record this, which is on a Tuesday. I still think that he will be activated before the weekend in Baltimore. Listen, that that wrist fracture was a little bit more complicated than anybody thought. Um, where the Rangers had to, where the physician, not the Rangers. I don't see Chris Young going in and doing surgery, but where the Rangers had to anchor the plate and the screws was just kind of in a weird spot on the top of the bone. And I think that it also has led to um, some uh, awkward scar tissue. I think the wrist is still a little bit stiff, and so he's still working on getting his strength back. But even an 80% Josh Young makes a big difference. This Rangers lineup has been missing a bat, and if you get Josh Young back, now all of a sudden you're talking about a lineup in which people are going to have to earn some playing time. Wyatt Langford has really come on here. Leody Taveras, as we mentioned, has not. Josh Smith may end up being the most unlikely Rangers All-Star of all time. So he's going to be in the starting lineup. Nate Lowe, we said, has struggled. I think if this goes the way I think it may, the Rangers will look at Langford a little bit more in center field, particularly against left-handed pitching, because Taveras, as much as Taveras has struggled this year, he struggles even greater swinging against left-handed pitching. You would move smooth. Guys, I am not smooth. I get all wound up. My tongue gets all tied up. It's terrible. But what you would do is you'd move Smith to left field, Langford to center. Some days when you do play Taveras would play center field probably. Langford left, Smith DH. So all of a sudden your lineup is you're having to make some decisions about guys who are playing because you're choosing guys who are performing instead of just filling out a lineup. So I think that also is encouraging. Evan Carter is still going to be a while. This back issue, listen, the back issue with Evan Carter for me has been a real sign of concern. He had a stress fracture in the lower back 3 years ago, 2021. He's had it again. So twice in 3 years. The feeling is he will grow out of it. The way it was explained to me is basically, he's 21. He's not yet 22. The spinal cord and area is still growing, still stabilizing. He's certainly not as thick through the middle as Wyatt Langford. So the amount of torque and stress that he puts on that has created some issues. But people are confident that this will, as soon when he gets to fully matured physically, this will not be a chronic issue. In the meantime, again, if Carter comes back and he's ready to play, you are choosing effective weapons against opposing pitchers, as opposed to just filling out a lineup card each day and hoping. And to that point, if Leody Taveras gets hot, there's no guarantee that Evan Carter walks right back into the lineup if everybody is succeeding. I think we should also note that, as this stretch comes to an end, the Rangers have played. I gotta write this down. The Dodgers, the Mariners, the Mets, who were much hotter than their record, Kansas City, Milwaukee, and then Baltimore. So in a six series stretch, 5 of those teams were holding playoff spots at the time the Rangers will have faced them. The Dodgers, Mariners, and Milwaukee were all leading their divisions. Baltimore and Kansas City were both 15 games or more above 500. They've all played really, really well. This is the toughest stretch of the season for the Rangers in terms of strength of schedule. If they get to July 1st and still can see what's in front of them, schedule turns much more favorable for them. They'll have a home road advantage. Strength of schedule gets easier. It sets it up for a good second half run. And let's also remember, listen, the one thing that the Mariners have that has always worked against them is they have the worst travel in baseball. They annually have the most road miles. And in the second half, that tends to catch up with a team on occasion. Should also say that Seattle's pitching, which has been outstanding, just simply outstanding, has also been incredibly stable and durable. We'll see if that keeps up in the second half. Not wishing any misfortune on anybody, but chances are you're going to suffer a significant injury at some point in time, especially when you've worked the kind of workload that the Mariners have compared to the rest of baseball. So there are some things that are looking up for the Rangers. And yes, even I can feel a little bit more encouraged about where this team is. And I think you should too. I don't think you should have ever given up on this season. I do think that, as I've said 100,000 times, and we'll say it again, winning championships is hard. Repeating as champions is dang near impossible in this day and age. But the most important thing is getting to the tournament. And the Rangers certainly have the tournament in their view as we head towards July. What happens from here? That all depends on how this team performs. But I think things are shaping up for this team to be a better second half team than it was a first half team for sure, and a better second half team than it probably was last year. You know, all the injuries the Rangers endured last year really came in the second half. This year, they endured a bunch of injuries in the first half. Maybe this team will be fresher, more resilient, and healthier in the second half. Makes for some potentially intriguing stretches. All right. I have rambled enough. I've yelled, I've screamed, haven't cracked many bad dad jokes. I'm sorry, I'll get back to that. I'll study up on my dad jokes for next week. But in the meantime, everybody, please remember, like my video, because really my whole sense of self-worth relies on this. And subscribe, because my ability to put food on the family table and send you pictures of what I've cooked also relies on that. I'm just preying on your guilt here, because that's what my mother used to do to me too. So anyway, until next week, see y'all, everybody. This is good video.